In the 300 years that had passed since the Veldora disaster, the memory of its terror had faded. Now, the belligerent opinions were becoming the majority, squeezing Gadra's side between a rock and a hard place. Taking up on this, Calgurio spoke feverishly. Master, there's something to be learned from your cautious attitude. Nonetheless, as I have assured you many times, the countermeasures against Veldora are flawless. With our new weapons, we can subdue that evil dragon. You're ridiculous. Stop living in an illusion, Calgurio Dono. As long as the possibility of it failing cannot be denied, we must, naturally, exercise caution. Not to mention, a new demon lord has risen to power in that forest. Although it is known that the demon lords do not cooperate with one another, it is still unwise to deliberately antagonize one. That evil dragon was revived and seems to have joined hands with the newcomer, Demon Lord Rimuru. Dealing with a demon lord through mutual inviolability is the tried and true approach. One possible route would lead through the Valley of Death, which was connected to the former territory of Clayman, as it allowed for large armies to pass through. They did not, however, wish to venture into Demon Lord Millam's domain, which lay beyond it, thus discarding that option. Marching across fertile ground would be significantly faster, but that said, incurring the wrath of Demon Lord Millam was too great of a price to pay. Likewise, passing through the Great Jura Forest would allow them to reach the west. But now Veldora, the Storm Dragon, had returned and was allied with Demon Lord Rimuru. There is no reason to make more enemies, Gadra insisted, receiving nods from several civil servants. On the other side, Calgurio gave a scornful laugh and posed a question. Well then, Gadra Dono, are you saying that we should give up on pursuing the Empire's dearest wish? Taking the route through the Great Jura Forest off the table would cripple their options in terms of dispatching a large army towards the west. Calgurio's concern was picked up by the army circle on those grounds. Calgurio Dono is right. Master, even demon lords pose no threat in the face of the great Imperial army. You're being insolent before His Imperial Majesty. Gadra Dono, do you intend to defy the Emperor's will? Nay. Gadra shouted and refuted the objection. Come to think of it, rather than fighting a demon lord, it would be wiser to get the cooperation of the Dwarf King. There wouldn't be any casualties, and it will be easier to conquer the west. However, there was someone who laughed at Gadra's assertion. You are being ridiculous, Gadra Dono. The Dwarf King is a master swordsman and a man of great honor. His predecessors were champions as well, and he is exceptionally skilled. His companions are also famous champions. They would be tougher opponents than the newcomer Demon Lord. As much as I'd like to test their abilities in a match, that's not our main concern. What I'm saying is that instead of fighting against champions, the optics of subjugating a Demon Lord are far preferable in the public eye. This interjection came from none other than one of the three commanders. He was the commander of the Magic Beast Corps, Beast King Gladium. As he merely rose from his seat, the air was heavy with an overwhelming sense of intimidation. Rightly so, for the dignity of a king. Gladium also ruled over the magical beasts by force. He was one of the best warriors in the Empire and a highly skilled military commander, holding the rank of general. It was said that he was the second strongest man in the Empire. Gladium was not, in fact, a single digit, but a double digit, but his strength led him to become a corps commander early in his career. Owing to his privilege of being freed from participating in the ranked duels, he took pride in claiming to be the strongest. That was why Gladium didn't have any conflicting emotions towards the marshal, who was considered to be stronger than him. It was rumored that he descended from the Beastman clan, but the authenticity of that rumor was uncertain. Gadra didn't get along with him as he was the type of person who acted not on logic but on instinct. Ah, Gladium Dono, that comparison is wrong, Gadra replied. What I'm saying is that we should make King Gazelle our ally. You fool, Gladium shot back. If you mean to absorb the Dwarven Kingdom at the same time, I understand what you are saying. After all, crushing every foe in defiance of Imperial rule would be enough. However, what is your plan? You think of your nonsense as a reason to hold back our forces that are fully ready to march. What kind of drivel is that? You already know that the Dwarven Kingdom is a natural fortress, right? Taking it by force would be. Silence. Beast King Gladium roared. Complaining in the presence of His Imperial Majesty, no wonder why you were dismissed from being a corps commander. That was, indeed, the truth. Until about 30 years ago, the Magic Corps commanded by Gadra were part of the Empire's three great armies. Now, however, the best and brightest from the Corps had been transferred to the Technology Department and elsewhere. That was because the so-called magic relied on talent. To begin with, you could not control magic without possessing magical power. No amount of effort could replace it, thereby softly limiting their numbers. Although it was useful in combat, weapons had been developed to replace magic. One was a small magic weapon, the spell gun. Using magic stones as the energy source, the magic circle engraved into the gun barrel would activate. It was a weapon by which anyone could use magic. While it fell short in being limited to only a single kind of magic, its effectiveness spoke for itself. For close combat, there was the Imperial Magic Saber. It worked on the same principle as the spell gun, and was one of the small magic weapons with weapon strengthening magic applied. It was because of this item that the technical team realized the purpose of the slotted weapons from the labyrinth. They all reached the same conclusion, in other words, they had to be right. Now that magic could be manipulated in spite of the absence of talent, the magic core had become obsolete. It was a sorrowful event for Gadra as it marked the end of the magic year. Ha, master, another person sneered at Gadra. You've grown old. Your knowledge of magic is a treasure to the Empire. Well, I owe you my gratitude for your help in developing new kinds of magic weapons for my armored core. As Gladium said, your remark just now was lamentable. It feels like you are scared. Calgurio smirked contemptuously. Stifled laughs escaping from the House of Peers and the army circle could be heard. Do all of you even understand? That evil dragon ruling over the storm is the most powerful species in this world. It is you who does not understand, old master. The Imperial army of today is different from before. We have learned the knowledge of many otherworlders and gained a technological system science different from our own. Thanks to this new technology, the Empire's military strength has increased tenfold over the previous generation. An old-fashioned mage like yourself can't keep up in modern warfare. The quiet retirement in the grace of His Imperial Majesty is all that you should hope for now. Ha, how dare you. Gadra cried out with indignation, but in reality, he was just faking it. To begin with, Gadra had already surrendered to Demon Lord Rimuru. He tried his best to advocate against the path of war. That said, the ultimate outcome did not concern him. These guys are really pathetic. Science indeed produced wonderful knowledge, but even the Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian had their own secret knowledge. Magic science. On top of that, His Majesty Rimuru also used to be an otherworlder. I don't know how far this military strength, which guarantees the supremacy of the Empire, could go. Now that he knew about Tempest about Rimuru, Gadra doubted the victory of the Empire. It wasn't that he wished misfortune to befall his former associates, and on top of that, he also felt indebted towards His Imperial Majesty. So, he was trying his best to deter them from war, but if he failed, well, he would cross that bridge when he got there. From what he could tell, Yuki seemed to be gearing up towards staging a coup d'etat, and planned to capture the Emperor, assassinate him, even. Considering his goal was to rule the world, a powerful leader was nothing but a hindrance. In the old days, Gadra would have left him to his own devices. But now that the very reason for war had disappeared, Gadra could no longer tolerate Yuki's ways, which threatened to plunge the world into chaos. Well, I don't know what will happen after this, but any further advice would be meaningless. In that case, the next step is to carry out His Majesty Rimuru's order, drawing the attention of the Imperial army to the dungeon. Gadra quietly steeled his resolve. Then he turned his eyes to Yuki, who still remained silent. Calgurio took Gadra's silence as an admission of defeat. Gadra's magic corps had been disbanded, followed by internal restructuring of the military. The subsequent treatment of Gadra was nothing more than an honorary position, serving as the technical advisor to the armored corps. Having said that, his heroic might was well known, and he probably even retained more influence than Calgurio. It was also Gadra's own decision to recommend that boy Yuki to be a corps commander. What a pain. Calgurio was not amused. Archmage Gadra, that champion, had now become old. Still, Calgurio held his grand achievements in high regard, and didn't think he should be disrespected. In the end, he is a person of the past. Now, he's just an orthodox old man causing trouble. With the passing of time, the war effort steadily increased. And those who couldn't keep up with that progress were left in the dust unmistakably. That's where Gadra now belonged as well. The Empire entered a new era. The new three great army corps were unlike anything seen before. First, the armored corps commanded by Calgurio. It was the largest military force in the Empire, and represented a fusion of otherworld science, technology, and magic. The total number of troops that could be mobilized exceeded 2 million. However, that is including the standing forces in various parts of the Empire, meaning the number of troops who could immediately take military action was, in effect, about 1 million. But even so, it was still an abnormally large army, unthinkable 100 years ago. Next, the Magic Beast Corps commanded by Gladium. DNA analysis, and otherworld technology, had made it possible to nurture and raise magic beasts. The training of these monsters lay at the core of this corps. Nurturing magic beasts had been impossible with the conventional knowledge of the past. They realized the potential and committed to further efforts to tame them. By doing so, the tenacious magic beasts became beast knights. The champions of the Empire spurred the magic beasts in battle. The new generation of champions analyzed the blood of the champions who had been active since ancient times, and made their power their own. They were born strong. By awakening the power in their blood, the Magic Beast Corps became a legion consisting of only champions. It was said that a fleeting 1 in 100,000 had the talent to join this corps, making it the smallest with only 30,000 soldiers. Nevertheless, their beast knights were magic beasts ranked A- and above, and their strength as a human-monster union was impossible to gauge. Despite numbering only 30,000 members, they were the most powerful elite force the Empire had to offer. Last but not least, the Mixed Corps commanded by Yuki. This division was a hodgepodge, but had a lot of potential. It was a den of misfits, singled out due to their inability to cooperate in groups at least. That was how the public perceived them. But on a closer look, that was hardly accurate. The reason why the core members could not coordinate well with others was because of the fact that each and every one of them possessed extraordinary abilities. So outstanding were their abilities, in fact, that managing those guys was difficult. Many of its members were otherworlders whose potential was completely unknown. Due to various experiments that were being carried out inside the core, there were also individuals who wielded powers beyond belief that could not be reproduced. They became magic beasts, boasting strength beyond their rank. While troublesome to control, they were outstanding warriors. Among them were also human weapons that obtained their power from unknown sources, and as such, many products of experiments were gathered under that banner.